As someone who is in the music industry and has been for a long time, what are your thoughts on where it is now and also how it's changed since you've gotten involved? Do you think it's overall improved? Do you think that a lot has been lost in this digitization? Do you think that it's a combination? What are your perspectives on that?
I honestly think it's better now. It's
Okay.
better for the artist. I think the disintermediation is amazing. I mean, I think of like the SoundCloud rappers and Lil Peep and that whole genre and how that really blossomed because of disintermediation to the point where the actual kind of tagging of the genre, has the word SoundCloud in it, which is emblematic of the disintermediation. And I think that's amazing. So there's obviously, less barriers to entry, but then there's also more noise and more competition. Whereas before there's a limited amount of gatekeepers, and if they chose you had a higher probability of success. Whereas today, I think it's harder to get noticed, although easier to get your stuff out there. So it presents its own challenges, but I think net it's better for the artists. But I still think record labels who operate with certain models and certain niches have value still, but it's less, and it has to be more kind of targeted. Bands still need branding. They still need, often kind of a nexus entity to help connect them with other artists and get them that networking boost. They still need financing for certain things, whether it be marketing or, even just tour support or whatever it might be. So I still think labels have a have a role. It's just less. And I think both artists and labels have to be more choosy when choosing each other now because they both either have more options or on the label side more risk. So
Mhm.
I think
Do you
that's
think something has been lost with the decline of the physical medium, both in terms of the quality of the music itself and the way that people actually consume and listen to it? Because I think that, in my opinion, I do think something has been lost. I think that the focus shifting from short singles and things that work on Spotify or Apple Music playlists away from the full blown album as a body of work has changed the way that people make music in various ways across genres. But I also think that in the past, people used to, put an album on and play it all the way through. And now when I see people, especially young people, listening to music, it's all over the place, right? It's skipping around all the time. It's playlists. It's listening to the first 30 seconds, first 1 minute, then getting bored and skipping around. And I do think that for not all artists, but certainly for some artists, I wonder if it's created a bit of a fast food culture for music. I don't know if that's something, technology is going to be technology and it's going to do
yeah.
what it does. But as an artist and a music fan who's in my mid 30s, I do remember, even when I was 14 or 15,
Yeah.
the excitement of a new album and waiting for the physical CD to drop and getting it. As you said, looking at the artwork, looking at the liner notes, listening to it all the way through, not
Mhm.
just jumping around all the time. There was something special about that in the anticipation, in the consumption. And I
Yes.
also think that, certainly in hip hop and in rap music, I think that people don't I think the album quality has declined. I think that things have been so focused on making a hot single, making something that can catch attention on a playlist. I don't know if you've noticed, even in hip hop, I mean, the average song has shrunk from three verses to two verses, right? People barely even make three-verse songs anymore. Everything's been cut down, and I understand that because of the format, but I am thinking that something may have been lost there.
Yeah, I think it's like anything else in life. It's the trade off dynamic, right? I think you do kind of trade off some of that holistic experience of a full album listen for the increased discoverability of streaming, of people having a risk free access to music through a streaming service, whereas before they might not try you out because they didn't want to shell out whatever it might be, 16 $17 for a CD or even $10 for a full album download, right? So I think that discoverability is the upside, and the downside is yes, you're going to have more of this a la carte environment where people are just consuming, one or two songs, and they try out. They may not get the full experience of an album to really digest your art and figure out, really what you're trying to convey. But I think for me, from being more into like the rock side, you talk about two chorus songs. I mean, coming from the punk rock world, everything's short and fast, you know. That's normal for me. But I mean, I still like to consume albums end to end when you have artists releasing just one or two singles prior to the full length. I'll listen to them, but it almost spoils the anticipation and the full experience of release day when the full album comes out for me. Because I almost would have rather heard those songs in the context of the full album, but I'm also a sucker and can't not listen to it when it comes out early if it's a band I really like.
I hear that. So, Andrew, you've written a whole book on the topic of failure. What made you want to write a book on failure? Failure is something I don't think people generally like to talk about, let alone admit on their own part, let alone bring to the public and highlight in any way. So, what made you want to write a book on that particular subject?
Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, I think that's kind of the crux of what made me want to do it. It was a period of my life where I was, reflecting on, I was taking a beach walk and I was reflecting on all the different entrepreneurial off-road adventuring I had done for the past 2 decades and all the things I encountered and challenges and difficulties and near catastrophic events that occurred and what I had learned from them and how I had grown from them and how I had gotten through them. And even what were the inputs of wisdom and inspiration from virtual mentors or people I knew that helped me get through those and helped me kind of give me more strength to move forward and continue to take calculated risks with better, vision. And I just became convicted to write a book on the value of failure. I was thinking about the Winston Churchill quote that success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And I still had this enthusiasm to continue to try and to experiment and to express myself both as an entrepreneur and as a creative. That fuel was going to keep me going no matter what. And I wanted to write about both my own journey and lessons that I'd learned from it, as well as, others that I admired. Again, there's a variety of case studies in the book. James Altucher, the investor, comedian, chess player, podcaster, to, Godfather of tattooing, Sailor Jerry, Norman Collins, to, even like Tim Pool, to all these various case studies that I put in the book. I think that really gave it a lot of texture and a lot of relatability and accessibility to the reader.